Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee. For today, we've been joined by Council Members Reich, Fry, Quincy, and myself, which is a quorum of the committee. And we're going to start with the consent agenda. The consent agenda is items 17 through 24. Are there items anyone would like to pull off the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, I'll move the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We'll then start with our public hearing agenda. This is items 1 through 16, starting with item number 1, which is a land sale. Mr. Pettiford, welcome.
Good afternoon. Item number 1 is 2414 15th Avenue South, which is a property that CPED acquired in December of 2009. It was a fire damaged duplex, which was demolished. And the vacant parcel was advertised on the city's website and through email to a list of over 900 developers and home buyers. One offer was received for this parcel from Rachel Reynolds Custom Homes LLC for the development of the vacant lot. The developer proposes to build a 1,536 square foot single family home with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full basement, and a 2-car detached garage. The property will be marketed for owner occupancy at an estimated sales price of $235,000. This property was advertised and the offer was received in advance of the city council's direction for infill development that required long-term owner occupancy on the development. So this isn't subject to that rule. Notification was on this one provided to the Midtown Phillips neighborhood, and they wholeheartedly endorsed this proposal. They've worked with this developer before, and they are delighted to work with the developer again. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Pettiford on item number 1? Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a couple of quick questions. You said that they've worked with the developer before, but I thought this was their first effort. Is that just in a commercial or in a residential property rehab? It's the first time?
This isn't a rehab. This is new construction. If I said something that left you with that impression, I apologize for that.
Okay.
But they have the neighborhood in their discussions with me has indicated that they have worked with Rochelle Reynolds before, and they were very, very pleased with the development.
Well, that's what I'm confused by, because I had thought this was the first time that she has been working with the properties. Maybe I missed that on the different RFP. But anyway, I'm pleased. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions, additional questions for Mr. Pettiford? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 1, which is a land sale at 2415 15th Avenue South to Rachel Reynolds Custom Homes. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to advance this item.
Item number 1 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 2, which is a land sale. Mr. Pettiford.
Madam Chair, item number 2 is for 2424 12th Avenue South, again, Rachel Reynolds Custom Homes, Inc. Oh, no. When it rains, it pours. Rachel Reynolds is proposing to build a 2,000 square foot, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, single family home with a 2-car detached garage. The lot size is 41 by 127. Again, this property was acquired as a tax forfeit property from Hennepin County for $1 as part of the memorandum of understanding with the county. Again, the vacant parcel was advertised through email to over 900 developers. This was the only proposal that was received. The Midtown Phillips neighborhood did review this proposal, and again, they are very delighted to work with this developer again. Again, the proposal came in advance of February 10th. Direction from the council on restricting the sale of lots on the south side for long-term affordability financing, so that it's not a part of this proposal.
Are there any questions for Mr. Pettiford on item number 2? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 2, which is a land sale at 2424 12th Avenue South. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to advance this item.
Item number 2 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 3. Mr. Ramadan, welcome.
Madam Chair, council members, we have as item number 3, the sale through the Vacant Housing Recycling Program. Policies for the program established of 711 Morgan Avenue North. The staff marketed and reviewed, and we only received 1 application in accordance with our program manual. We're recommending CTW Group because of its intent to sell exclusively to owner occupants, the scope of work, and also they have strong secure financing. Notification was sent to the Northside Residents Redevelopment Council, and the council concurred with our recommendation on January 11th, 2017. 711 Morgan was acquired on April 14th, 2016 from Hennepin County as tax forfeited land for $20,000. However, after several unsuccessful attempts to market the property, it was reappraised at $10,000. It was constructed in 1913 as a 1,946 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. The applicant intends to rehabilitate as a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home and sell exclusively to owner-occupant. The applicant proposes to invest $81,000 to rehabilitate the property. CPAD's construction management staff reviewed the scope of work and estimates submitted by the applicant and confirmed that they are sufficient to meet the minimum rehabilitation standards of the Vacant Housing Recycling Program. 2 open houses were held for the property in November, and notification was sent to a listserv of about 1,200. It just so happens that CTW Group Representative Mr. Alexander Delendick is new to our program, even though they've done housing through other Hennepin County and others in the city of Minneapolis. And Mr. Delendick is here today for any questions as well.
Any question for Mr. Ramadan or the applicant? He's certainly welcome to speak during the public hearing as well if he'd like. Further questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open. Thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on number 3, which is a land sale at 711 Morgan Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Alexander Delendick. I represent CTW Group, Inc. We are a local real estate investment company, and we focus on purchase and rehabilitating properties anywhere within the Twin City Metro. We've done numerous projects in the city of Minneapolis. As Mr. Ramadan said, that we've participated in Hennepin County program that deals with similar properties. We've participated with properties that were sold by the local institutions for the same resources, and we opened this program for ourselves. We're looking to try a couple projects to start off with, and hopefully it's going to be good. We have a decent track record, and we're looking forward to come back here next year and do more.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move approval of item number 3.
Item number 3 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing that item. Okay, we have to vote out loud. I know everyone's on their phones, but just try this. Councilmember Quincy has moved approval of the land sale of item number 3. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yay, that item is approved. Thank you. Item number 4, Mr. Ramadan.
Item number 4, the land sale of 4631 Sheridan Avenue North. Again, this was in accordance with the policies and procedures established by the vacant house by the City Council on December 11, 2015. And we're recommending the sale of 4631 Sheridan to Ibiza LLC for its appraised value of $30,000 subject to conditions. And if Ibiza fails to close, approving the sale to CTW Group for $30,000 subject to conditions. The staff marketed. We received actually 3 applications in accordance with our manual. The staff recommends this application because it was, again, the strongest combination of sale of home ownership, the scope of work, and the secured financing. CTW is recommended as the alternate because it was actually very close, within half a point from the Ibiza proposal. The third proposal, we did not recommend to go for it as it was ranked much lower for both its scope of work and also its intention to retain the property as a rental property. The notification was sent to the Victory Neighborhood Association, and we did not receive any response from them. This property was acquired on May 19th, 2016 from Hennepin County tax forfeited land for $30,000. It was construction in 1943. It's a 1,142 square foot, 1-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. The applicant intends to rehabilitate it as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home and to sell exclusively to owner occupants. The applicant proposes to invest $108,915 to rehabilitate the property. And again, CPA's construction management staff reviewed the scope of work and estimates and believes that it meets the minimum standards. There were 2 open houses again held for this property, and it was sent out to a listserv of 1,200 people. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 4? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 4. This is a land sale at 4631 Sheridan Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of this item.
Item number 4 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 5. Mr. Ramadan.
4634 DuPont Avenue North, again, in accordance with the policies of the program established by the council. The staff recommends the sale of 4634 DuPont to CTW Group for its appraised value of $25,000 subject to conditions. We marketed and we received 2 applications in accordance with the manual. We recommend CTW Group because of its intent to sell exclusively over owner occupants. And we did not recommend Andre Duke as an alternate purchaser, again, for the reason of a lower scope of work and also the intent to retain as a rental property. Notification was sent to the Lynn Bohannon neighborhood in this case, and we did not receive a response. This property was acquired on April 14th, 2016 from Hennepin County as tax forfeited land for $25,000. It was construction in 1904 as a 1,332 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. The applicant intends to rehabilitate it as a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home and to sell exclusively to an owner occupant. The applicant proposes to invest $85,500 to rehabilitate the property. Again, our staff reviewed the scope of work and it meets minimum rehabilitation standards. Again, there were 2 open houses held in November and was sent to a listserv of 1,200. Are there any questions on this one?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 5? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 5, which is a land sale at 4634 DuPont Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of this item.
Approval of item number 5 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 6. Mr. Ramadan.
Number 6 is 5152 Logan Avenue North, and staff recommends the sale of 5152 Logan Avenue North again to CTW Group for its appraised value of $50,000 subject to conditions, and if CTW fails, to Ibiza LLC for $50,000 subject to conditions. As again we mentioned, these 2 were very, very close in their proposals, and they were basically just edged out by less than a point or so in their rankings. Notification was provided to the Single Creek Neighborhood Association in this case, and we did not receive any response from the neighborhood. It was acquired on May 19th, 2016 as Hennepin County tax forfeited land for $40,000. It was constructed in 1950 and is a 1,440 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home. The applicant intends to rehabilitate it as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home and to sell exclusively to owner occupant. They propose to invest $126,000 to rehabilitate the property, and our construction management team did review and found that it did meet our minimum scope for rehabilitation standards. Again, we held 2 open houses in the month of November, and we'll send out to a listserv of about 1,200. And are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 6? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 6, which is a land sale at 5152 Logan Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of this item.
Approval of item number 6 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 7. Ms. Shaw.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. You have before you a request to hold a public hearing on the issuance of up to $200 million in tax-exempt and taxable revenue bonds for Allina Health Services. Under federal tax law, municipalities are authorized to issue tax-exempt revenue bonds as a conduit for nonprofit agencies such as Allina. The city acts as the issuer, and the borrower is solely responsible for the repayment of debt. Although it's not our money and it's not our obligation to repay the debt, the issuance of bonds for nonprofit organizations generates fees that the city of Minneapolis is able to use to support our small businesses. In 2007 and 2009, the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul jointly issued bonds for Allina for projects that spanned throughout the metro area in greater Minnesota. The 2009 A bonds have a higher than current market interest rate, so refinancing them to a lower interest rate is favorable at this time. You have before you a request for preliminary and final approval on the issuance of up to $100 million in Series 2017 taxable and tax-exempt revenue bonds issued jointly by Minneapolis and St. Paul HRA to refund the outstanding 2009 A bonds. The additional $100 million in tax-exempt revenue bonds will be brought forward for authorization at the March 14th CD&RS committee meeting, and those bonds will also be issued by Minneapolis and St. Paul jointly to refinance outstanding 2007 A bonds at a lower interest rate. And in summary, these bonds are refunding existing debt. There is no new money or new projects for the borrower at this time. And I do have individuals here from the project to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So item number 7 is listed as an issuance of up to $200 million in revenue bonds. This is more of a refinance, it sounds like, because the previous issuance was made back in 2009, and they're simply refining right now to get a lower interest rate.
Correct. Madam Chair, Councilmember Fry, we are refunding the outstanding 2009 A bonds only. And we have to do a new issue in order to refund those outstanding bonds. So when we say we're issuing new bonds, the 2017 will cover the 2009 A bonds only.
So it's a reissue of bonds that have already been
Absolutely.
provided, just at a different interest rate, because I would be perhaps voting in a totally different way if it were actually new money.
Correct.
So you're saying this is not new money?
Not new money.
Okay. What's the interest rate? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, 5? Around 5? I don't know.
It will be around 5 versus it was around.
It was a variable interest rate.
Okay.
So with interest rates expected to rise, it's a better idea to set the interest rates right now.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions for staff? I see where this can be confusing. If you were to read the agenda, it would look like we were issuing bonds for a new project, because that's what it says on the agenda. And you have to read the report to actually determine that it's a refinancing of existing bonds. But I do think it's fair to say that it looks like it's a new issuance of bonds. You would agree with that?
I do agree.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your report. No other questions for staff. This is a public hearing, and it is with regard to the very narrow issue of the refinancing of the bonds, but I would invite anyone who would like to come up and testify to please do so. I have 2 people who are signed up, and you might be one of them. Are you Mr. Keller or Mr. Foreman?
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam
great.
Chair.
Perfect. Thank you for signing in.
Madam Chair, council members, I'm just going to start out by saying that this was a tough one for our organization. There was some gnashing of the teeth behind the scenes on how we wanted to approach this, and here we are before you today. My name is Matthew Keller. I represent the Minnesota Nurses Association as a nurse and as an attorney. M&A nurses, as you guys know, are legally and ethically bound patient advocates. They desire a financially strong line of health. We want to be upfront, though, that we are not asking you to deny the issuance of these bonds. We are, however, here to express our concerns regarding Alina's recent financial behavior that detrimentally affects the patients of the nurses behind me, as well as Minneapolis residents who are seen at Alina facilities. Broadly speaking, we have three main concerns: Alina's for-profit activities, community investments not staying in the community, and the composition of Alina's board of directors. Our first concern is with Alina's for-profit activities. Alina has engaged in a pattern of for-profit dalliances as of late. One is a $100 million Series E investment in a venture capital startup, Health Catalyst. Although we know Health Catalyst is a data analytics company, it's not clear what exactly it does, and I've researched it quite a bit. What is clear is that it's for-profit, and that as part of Alina's investment, Alina's CEO is now on Health Catalyst's board of directors. This raises at least a perception of a conflict of interest. As a board member of both companies, Penny Wheeler has a fiduciary duty to both, even though their interests might not always match up. Alina has also entered into a business relationship with for-profit giant Aetna to form a new for-profit insurance company in the state. This is concerning on several levels, not the least of which is that when your insurer is also your healthcare provider, the insurer's incentive to negotiate down the price of healthcare is presumably minimized. It's also little known that Alina has its own for-profit debt collection firm. Thus, in a new model where Alina is the insurer and the provider, it is also the debt collector. This firm, Accounts Receivable Services, LLC, sued 109 Hennepin County residents last year. M. Verdney was brought to court for $775, P. Tolbert for $504, and Alina patient D. Sloan was sued for $451. Alina writes off bad debt on one hand and then collects it on the back end. Meanwhile, the amount of money that Alina has spent on uncompensated care has declined by 28% since the year 2011, for a yearly savings of $63.1 million since the ACA was implemented. Our second concern is with community money not staying in the community. Just a few quick points here. For example, Alina has $160 million in Antigua, Barbuda, Aruba, and the Bahamas, according to its 2014 financial disclosures. It recently spent untold millions buying out McDonald's from Abbott Northwestern. And perhaps most concerning to the nurses of M&A is $149 Alina spent on out-of-state nurses in order to cost shift $10 million per year in healthcare costs to its local nurses. Spending $149 million to save $10 million just doesn't make fiscal sense. And yet, even though Alina ended 2016 in the red on its operating revenue, it made money overall due to its investment activities. That's nothing new. Oftentimes what we're seeing is Alina operating more like a bank than a healthcare system. Which brings us to the last concern. The third concern is the composition of Alina's board of directors. If it seems like Alina is operating more like a bank, it's because its board is comprised mostly of bankers and related marketing and financial professionals. Aside from a few doctors, there is no representation from healthcare professionals, much less the workers who spend the most time with patients and understand healthcare delivery the absolute best of anyone. The largest healthcare profession, bedside nurses. RNs are trusted patient advocates, and they are leaders, and they deserve a spot on Alina's board of directors. In conclusion, we want Alina to be financially healthy, and we want Alina to be an industry innovator. But true industry innovators work with their employees, not against them, and true healthcare innovators work with patients, not big banks. A focus on the profit motive rather than patient care has led Alina to, in some instances, cut corners. You'll hear more about that from the bedside nurses behind me in a moment. As stated earlier, we are not asking you to deny the issuance of these bonds for the refinancing purposes. As Councilmember Fry posited earlier, that might be a different ask were this not a refinancing issue. However, we are asking that you continue to monitor Alina's behavior in these areas and continue to work with us to ensure that Alina Health invests more in their employees and the community instead of operating as a for-profit company. We do expect that they'll be back to you guys within a couple of years. Thank you for your careful consideration of our concerns.
Thank you for your testimony. Jean Foreman had signed up. I just want to make sure she had an opportunity to speak also.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hearing me today. I just want to give a little information on my experience as a nurse at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. I want to start out by saying that last Tuesday night on February 21, a nurse reported to me that on our cardiac ICU at Abbott Northwestern Hospital for the night shift, she brought forward a complaint to a supervisor that they were short 8 registered nurses for their night shift. Because of this, our most acute patients more than likely did not receive the level of care and attention that they so need and deserve in that most acute unit. Nurses are advocating for their patients, and they demanded that the unit be closed to admissions because there were no more nurses available to take care of even the patients currently on the unit. Unfortunately, the supervisor denied contract language and kept the unit open, and more admissions came in. And due to the very hard work of my colleagues, they managed to care for a full unit of nurses, or full unit of patients, short ultimately approximately 5 nurses for that shift. That is not an isolated occurrence. My name is Jean Foreman. I'm a registered nurse. I work at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. I've been employed there since 2005. I work in the neurological ICU, and I provide care to your families, friends, neighbors when they need it most. I'm also not here today to ask you to deny this bond issuance. I'm here to make sure that you understand some of our concerns about the way Allina Health has been doing business and providing care in the most recent years. As a nurse at the hospital and as a union steward, I see corners being cut every day, both personally witnessed and reported to me by my colleagues. In 2016, Allina nurses submitted 1,106 concern for safe staffing forms to M&A, documenting situations where unsafe staffing negatively impacted patient care. Unfortunately, such situations are even more common than that. One study done estimated that for each form and report filled out, there were 9 additional forms that should have been done regarding short staffing in our hospital. It's not that Allina doesn't have the money to staff appropriately. From 2011 to 2014, the last year for which full financial disclosures are available, former CFO Duncan Gallagher saw a pay increase from about $1 million annually to $1.7 million, an increase of 60%. I was not a benefit of those sorts of percentage increases in my salary as a bedside nurse. During that time, staffing has continued to get worse, not just for nurses, but for other ancillary staff in our hospital. And we're having a hard time finding staff such as transport aides that move our patients to and from my unit and ICU to tests safely and take them to and from other rooms when they're coming from other parts of the hospital. Oftentimes lately, I've come into work and there is still trash left in the hallways, and I'm only going to assume that there was not enough night environmental staff to take care of that. Just the other week, Allina rolled out an initiative where nursing assistants are going to be doing some of the registered nurse charting so that the registered nurses more than likely can take on additional tasks. That's very disturbing. I think what we often get asked to do is more with less. Another example is the Institute for Integrative Medicine. It is an industry-leading holistic initiative received by our patients and family with just high marks of satisfaction, recently experiencing layoffs of staff. There is talk of removing our American Heart Association approved training and certification for resuscitation protocols in our hospital and replacing it with a course designed by Allina that will take half the time to be trained in. It takes hours, oftentimes for laboratory staff, to come to the unit to draw blood and obtain specimens that are on doctor's orders. And in my unit, which is the ICU, it's difficult to be waiting for tests to be drawn and get resulted so that we can proceed with the most immediate care our patients could need. This also can happen in the emergency room. And this is not the fault of our coworkers. This is the decision of short staffing. It's a result of short staffing. So we're speaking not just for the nursing staff, but for all areas of the hospital that impact our patients. This short staffing invariably results from a focus on profits at the expense of patient care. And patients deserve better. As stated earlier, we are not here to ask you to deny the issuance of the bonds. However, we do ask that you urge Allina Health to invest more in their employees and community instead of operating like a for-profit company. We commit that we will continue to update you on the progress to make Allina a more employee and patient-friendly health system, and hope you will join us in those efforts. And thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Thank you for having to assign people to testify. And people who know me know I usually make everyone talk for like 30 seconds. So I think it was a good strategy to have a couple of people say something very important, and I appreciate it. I am going to close the public hearing. If there is no one else here to testify, and move approval of the bond issuance. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this issue? Councilmember Frye.
I want to thank the Minnesota Nurses Association for a well-articulated, well-thought-out, very reasonable argument that also acknowledged the refinance of the particular bonds. I think this was the right way of doing it. I'm impressed with how you handled the situation, and thank you for being here.
I will just say I believe it makes sense to reissue the bonds, but on the 15th of November, I had a friend who was at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. I happened to be there the moment that he died, and the person standing next to me was an RN. The person who worked with my friend who died all along were all of the RNs who so amazingly took care of him as he went through lymphoma over a 4-month period. And I can tell you that I saw the staffing situation firsthand because he was first located in an oncology wing and then was moved to Sister Kinney with the idea of rehab, but we never got to the point of rehab. So I had the opportunity to see how nurses work with patients on a daily basis and what happens when you push a button and how long it takes for someone to come. And, you know, in my life of 51 years, I haven't had the privilege of being in a room when something like that happens, but I know how important nurses are to people's lives. And, you know, if we had universal